Hi, I'm Danielle Davies, and you're listening to Roar, a show that amplifies the voices of women breaking barriers, leading change, and making real impact. Keep listening for bold ideas and stories that inspire you to find your voice and make some noise. Hi, everybody. I'm Danielle Davies, your host of Roar. Today, we're diving into a topic that doesn't always get talked about honestly, but touches almost every woman's life: sex. My guest, Alex Caroline Robboy, is a certified sex therapist who's been helping people and couples navigate intimacy for decades. She's the founder of the Center for Growth in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Rhode Island, Virginia, and Georgia, where she and her team specialize in everything from depression and anxiety to relationships and shame. But Alex's specialty is sex therapy. And she isn't afraid to go where no woman's gone before. Alex has spoken on national platforms, led workshops at bachelorette parties, and built a career helping people connect more deeply to themselves and their partners. What I love about her work is that it's not about gimmicks. It's about honesty, resilience, and giving women permission to advocate for their own desires. And that really connects to what Roar's about: women helping women and making space for voices that often get sidelined. So I'm thrilled to have you here today. Welcome, Alex.
Thank you for having me today.
We're thrilled. So let me just start here. While your work helps both men and women have better sex, historically, even in pop culture, the story appears to have been framed as women having sex and men enjoying sex. So how do you reframe those conversations so that women's needs and experiences take center stage? Because obviously women should be enjoying sex too.
Agreed. So the way I love to frame sex is, you're having you're a great sex partner for yourself and for others when you are 60% focused on yourself and you're meeting your own needs and 40% aware of the other person.
So it's the 60-40 rule.
It's the 60-40 rule, but you've got to be the 60% because when you're having a really good time, it's contagious and you can bring other people into your energy. Right? I mean, nobody goes down on you because you taste good the first time. They go down on you simply because they want to pleasure you. And if it works, they learn to love that taste and love that experience of it. So the more you are putting yourself out there and really going after meeting your own needs and expressive, the more fun it is for everybody else.
Okay, I'm going completely off of what I had planned to say. So let me ask you a question. Obviously, you're dealing with women of all ages, or you're dealing with couples of all ages. And when you do deal with women, because there is like this perceived notion in the world of you see movies, you see, even if like people talk about porn, how porn is not really representative of real sex, right? So then you go to regular movies or something like that where you see that and real life is not the movie. So how do you help women even put that focus on themselves when so many women seem to talk about, things they have to do? This is what I hear from different women that I know. So I'm just curious how you turn that focus back to them so that they're even relaxing for themselves. I know women who haven't even taken a bath or, enjoyed a good book in years because they don't have any time. So I'm curious how you help them reframe that as something for them.
So I think you're just bringing in right now a much larger conversation, which is choice. And we all have a very limited number of hours on this earth, right? We have 24 hours in a day as women, as moms, as wives, as worker bees. We've got limited free time. And the first step is really deciding, how do you want to use your free time, right? Maybe that means I need to sleep. Maybe that means I need to eat. Maybe it means I need to have a conversation. So whatever you need to do, you need to do. But if you decide to take the time and say, I'm going to prioritize being in my own body and I want to enjoy my own self, now we're having a different conversation. And that's where I start with telling people, close your eyes, allow yourself just to be completely aware of being in your body and the experience of touch. So I don't care if it's your own hand touching yourself. I don't care if it's somebody else touching you, but just connect with your body and pay attention to what feels good.
Alex,
go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was going to say this actually leads into my next question perfectly because where we often talk about like women's health in terms of fertility or menopause or mental health, but sexual health's often left out of the conversation. You know, it's almost like we're like, and that's another thing, but it's not. So what happens when we don't include it?
I think we start to live a little bit of a scattered life, a disconnected, right? It's like, uh, don't have sex, don't do this, and now I'm pregnant. What do I do? Like, it's really your sex drive is just part of being it, sort of like eating, right? It's a natural force. You need to have sex to make the world continue forward, right? I really believe that orgasms are nature's way of encouraging you. And so I I feel like everybody's having sex because of the pleasure, and people are scared to actually acknowledge what's happening. So sometimes you got to just dive right in and acknowledge the joy of touch, just like the joy of connecting with somebody sometimes is the laughter, it's the emotional connection, it's knowing that it's a shared space. So it's your own body, enjoy it.
I do you feel like and I feel like there are, and I want to say what, but you're the expert in this, so let's pivot this and say, do you even feel this way? That there are like some systemic or cultural barriers keeping women from experiencing satisfying sex lives?
So every culture throughout time and history has rules and regulations around procreation. I think it's a little bit of a different conversation. Um, there are some religions that very much script the time and place that one is supposed to have sex, when you're supposed to have enjoyment around sex, when you're supposed to abstain from it. Um, there's just rules and regulations, but you can say the same thing for food, right? Everybody eats because it's exciting, it tastes good, it's fun, it's nourishing. There are real reasons, but there are always rules and regulations around it. So I don't even want to make it a positive or a negative. It just is.
Got it. Got it. But it's even in just, I feel like our modern culture, again, I feel like the focus isn't necessarily on, like you said, it's for pleasure and nobody's actually talking about that part. So, or maybe some people are, but not so many people.
Because it's taboo, and too much pleasure in excess can lead to problems, right? There is such a thing as sex addiction. There is like, I'm having so much fun playing that I'm never working.
Yeah.
Right? Everything can be problematic when it's too much pleasure. And what that exact amount is, I think, is very person specific, where you are in your life. If you've got 5 children, you're working full time, there's too many pressures to be having this amazing sex life, as opposed to, I've got no children, I'm working part time.
But also the idea of like, this is part of putting ourselves first as women, like even, or as humans, but in particular women who I feel like take on that mental load a lot of the times. Like it's part of prioritizing yourself. Like we shouldn't be like, that's the first to go. I know so many women in marriages who are that's like not even part of the conversation. Like that's just,
So
yeah.
I think a lot of reasons why people don't prioritize it is they're not having great sex. You might be having good sex, but when you're having chemical sex with somebody, it just automatically moves much higher up in your need to have. Just like if you don't really enjoy working out at the gym, that starts to go away when you get busy. But when you become passionate about something, or you're really connected and you're seeing the full beauty of it, you're not going to let it go.
You just said chemical sex, and I never heard that term. What's the difference between good sex and chemical sex?
A lot. So, a lot.
Go ahead.
So chemical sex is, I can only compare it when you have like 2 people that naturally run a 5-minute mile starting to run together, compared to being with a 5-minute mile runner and a 10-minute mile runner. Like that chemical sex is, you're coming at it in the same way, the same place, your bodies naturally vibe together. You have that emotional connection. It's almost like your hurts are the same, your internal wiring just naturally line up. So you're almost intrinsically knowing how to read the other person. That's chemical sex.
So is chemical sex reliant on a chemical sex partner, or can you have chemical sex with, so for example, say it's two people in a monogamous relationship, they can have chemical sex and they could also sometimes have good sex, or I guess perhaps bad sex. But what I'm saying is it partner reliant or is it experience reliant?
It's partner reliant.
Okay.
Everybody can have good sex. That's practice, that's experience. You can make things better. You can have moments of phenomenal sex. Chemical sex it's almost effortless. It's like the person you walk into a room with a therapist and there's just some people you're like, oh my God, you get me. You're asking questions I didn't even know I needed to be asked. It just, things line up.
Okay.
It's just that you just walk in and that's that.
So you can't teach that because that has to do with the relationship. But how could people who are in a partnership or in a relationship have better sex where they're at?
So I'm glad you asked that. I am so glad you asked that. That's my favorite question. Because everyone's like, well, how do I get to chemical sex? And I'm like, well, a lot of people actually are just having good sex, but we can move you towards chemical sex because sometimes it's just, we got to teach you some skills. And it's all about communication. We somehow think in the world of sex, communication is like, honey, touch me to the left, touch me to the right. I'm like, ugh. You are never going to get to good sex using words because you have to learn how to disconnect your brain from the experience. And you got to train your eyes to be looking and seeing the other person's nervous system. You can see someone responding and reacting. You need to be able to hear someone and sense, like, is their breathing increasing? Is it decreasing? Are they panting? Are they moaning? Are they groaning? You've got to read the body language, the language verbally. You need to get a little bit creative and experimental and just shift your touch, maybe a quarter of an inch, maybe just a little bit of the pressure or the speed. And then you've got to observe the other person's responses. You might want to give them forced choices and say, do you want A or B, and try two different things and force someone to give you some kind of feedback. But again, there are so many ways to communicate. But if you ever said to someone like, hey, would you like anal sex? They're going to be like, oh, no, it's anal sex. But if you're just moving along and moving your fingers closer and closer or doing something, their body might tell you a different story.
Well, that is very enlightening. And I really think that nobody who hasn't been to a sex therapist would actually know this information, like that they could iterate it. So thank you for that. And let me, along those same lines, let me ask you if there are any myths about women in sex that you'd like to debunk.
A major one is that women don't have a sex drive. Let me tell you, all women have a sex drive. And what it kind of cracks me up, women are always coming into my office and they're like, okay, my boyfriend is having, or my husband is having me come in here because sex is a problem. I never want to have sex. And, what do I do? How do I get a high sex drive? And I'm looking at them and I'm like, are you kidding me? You have a sex drive. You know what you want. You are wanting to connect, right? So it may not be coming from this physical place where you're like, I need to be touched, but you have this drive to want to please. You have this drive to get closer. And for a lot of people, that's the entryway into having a really healthy sex life. It's that emotional experience. It's the give and take. It's the reason you take the garbage out for somebody else. It's the reason you change your kid's diaper. You're not craving this stuff, but you get so much pleasure from seeing your kid happy, and you want them to do well and you enjoy it. And it's the same way with sexuality. So women have drives. Everybody has a drive. We want connection at the end of the day.
Well, all right. Now I have another question that I wasn't planning on asking, but it absolutely lines up with this. So a lot of the women that I speak to are around my age, or the people who are listening are around my age. So they're often dealing with perimenopause, menopause, even chemical or surgical induced menopause. So a lot of that comes with the changing of our hormones. And so the loss of sex drive seems to be like a more legitimate issue. Do you have anything to suggest to those women?
Well, it's funny that you say this because I was literally just yesterday talking with this woman who was sharing how she's going through perimenopause. And it's a topic that kind of caught her off guard. People really hadn't been talking about it, or she didn't comprehend the complete dysregulation that her body was going through. And, sort of the memory lapses that's sort of similar to like pregnancy, where information just goes out of your head, or you see your body changing, you have suddenly these wrinkles, and you don't feel like yourself anymore. And I look at this as like your sex drive is there, your sexuality is there. It's just sometimes when you're dysregulated, everything goes off. And we're so trained to think there's something wrong with me or to discount our bodies that we automatically shut it off, as opposed to just giving ourselves grace to say, you know what, it's a stage. Maybe my drive is a little bit lower. It doesn't mean anything about what tomorrow's going to be like. Just like, some days you're hungry, some days you're not. Right? Like it depends on the level of exercise. It depends what's in front of you. It's giving yourself grace to not overthink it and just allow your body to show up the way it wants to.
Okay. Okay. All right. That makes a lot of sense. And I think like we're also when that all happens, by the way, in perimenopause, I was at a conference once and a young woman was clearly not anywhere near perimenopause, was on stage, and she was talking about why she was so excited about the conference and all the things we were going to learn. And she's like, because, I don't want to go through menopause, because at the same time your hair's getting thinner and you're getting wrinkles and you're whatever these things were. I was like, that's all menopause. Like the whole thing is one package. It's like I feel like women go through a couple different stages of their lives hormonally, and so it's a huge shift, and it's a not necessarily a bad thing, but it's a new thing. So it's interesting to position it like that and give yourself a little bit of grace, because it's a timing issue.
It is timing, and it's your relationship to yourself, right? I mean, you're not going to be as vibrantly pretty in the same way, and if you're sitting there being upset or mad or fighting this stage, you're just going to have too many negatives. Where if you can embrace this new place and the gifts that come with it, you are much more open to exploring and experimenting. And I can only put it this way, which is when you're 18 and you decide you're going to go running, you just get out there and you go running, and it's no big deal. When you are 65 and you're like, I'm going to go out running, you probably have to warm up for like half a year first. Maybe you're starting with walking a very, like 1 block, 2 blocks, and building up to this place, even though your brain tells you should be able to just run. So does that mean the 65-year-old has to grieve running and like it just doesn't happen anymore? No, it means you actually have to have a different relationship with your body, and you have to give it the room to grow into these spaces. And sometimes you actually have to make a very active decision to say, I value this, I want this, and I'm going to lean into it. And things aren't going to feel the way that they used to feel. I'm going to be open to this new experience of it.
Quick pause to thank all of you for listening. You may have noticed that Roar sounds a little more polished this season. That's thanks to my producer, who's responsible for making this 3rd season sound as good as it does. If you believe in amplifying women's voices and want to support a teeny tiny creative team trying to do big, meaningful things, you can help at buymeacoffee.com/roarpodcast. Your support truly makes all of this possible. And now let's get back to the show. How does that play against, men, obviously, for women who are having sex with men, they're not going through that, right? I mean, their bodies are declining in other ways. And I don't mean that menopause is just a decline.
They're not so beautiful anymore. Come on.
I mean, we're all changing and that's fine, but they change in a different way. And so maybe how does it compare to what a man's going through? Do they have to mentally prepare themselves for that run in the same way that maybe a woman does when we're talking about it being their sex lives?
So I just think culturally, women and men are growing up in different cultures with different expectations. We've got different physical bodies. The conversations that people are having look different. So it's really hard to compare and contrast because it's just different. Just like even if I were to look at a very specific man and a very specific woman, they're not even going to fit these cultural norms. So I'm much more comfortable saying that it depends on the history of the sex life that you've had before you meet your partner and with your current partner as to the conversation that you need to be having. Because, maybe their drive is way higher, maybe your drive is way higher. As a sex therapist, I see plenty of men coming into my office saying, oh my God, I have an erectile dysfunction, or I can't get it up anymore. I'm waxing and waning. My orgasms aren't as good anymore. And it's creating havoc in their sex life. So it's not just a female problem. It's just that women are getting dinged for it that's the joke. Well, women never want to have sex, or my husband always wants it. And my husband's like chasing me around the house. But I'm like, these are communication problems. And this has been building for years. And so if you've got someone that isn't reading your signals correctly, and you've gone through this major hormonal shift and you're just not feeling it in your body, you've just shut down and you don't even have a good dialogue or a good way to dialogue with your partner about this.
Got it. Okay. And thank you too for being willing to just talk about the nitty gritty part of sex, but also the larger picture part and the dialogue and communication and relationship that go into it, because that they are obviously so intertwined. I mean, while many people are single and doing whatever, a lot of people are in relationships. So they're, want to improve that as much as they can in their lifetime. So, but let me back up to another fun part of sex. You explained to me before that you sometimes go and do workshops at bachelorette parties, which is, by the way, totally fun and disarming and what a fun bachelorette party. But obviously there's also a deeper message. So what are you hoping the deeper message women take away from those kind of experiences are?
Wow. How to have a really fun time in the bedroom, right? I mean, this is such a big component of your life, or could be such a big component of your life. And it's shared exercise, it's shared connection. It's the glue in some ways that can help you weather the storm of a major fight. And it's easier to teach people ideas and ways to connect to themselves and others before you have the problem. And you just start off with good habits, right? It's like exercise. If you just grow up,
it's like flossing,
right? But I mean, it's if you grow up just exercising your whole life, you never have the experience of getting out of shape. So when you break your leg, the healing process is much easier, as opposed to someone that's never exercised and is totally out of shape, and now they break their leg. To get back to health is so much harder because your body isn't even wired for it.
I love that. And what is the response generally when you do that? Are people at bachelorette parties? I mean, there's all types of people at bachelorette parties, and you have everyone from your future sister-in-law, to maybe your mom, to friends you've known your whole lives. What is the reaction to even, being public about this and saying, I want to have good sex?
Well, so when your mother-in-law is in the room, it is a different workshop in terms of how much I'm sharing versus eliciting from other people, because there really are some boundaries. As much as I'm open about sex, I am not talking to my child about the orgasm I had yesterday. Sorry, no, thank you. I do not want to go there. And if they're having an orgasm, I don't need those details. I really please, it's on you. I have a whole staff. You can talk to anybody else. So boundaries really are critical. So I do shift up the dynamic. But what's lovely about a bachelorette party is everybody knows on your wedding night you are supposed to have good sex. It's supposed to consummate the marriage. So we finally have a sanctioned place where we are allowed to talk about it. We're encouraged to talk about it. And it is the male version of a bachelor party where they're going to the strip club, except now we are doing it in a communicative way. It's group oriented. I'm really focused on teaching women how to connect to other women and learn skills from each other. Because if I can start the dialogue, then I am successful. And if we happen to get one or two tidbits of new information, maybe I'm going to learn something and not just them.
Good for you. Good
Right.
for you. I love this. And well, so let me back up to like very big picture in the world. We talk about a lot of advocacy at Roar. So the fact that, maybe the person who creates a breast cancer awareness fund is doing it because she herself has struggled with something. We don't often necessarily, look in the mirror when we're 8 years old and say, I'm going to start a cancer fund. It's usually in response to something. And I find a lot of women have created really amazing things in response to something. But sexual empowerment can be one of the most radical forms of advocacy for women. And I think stepping into that, and I noticed, by the way, when I did go to like a femtech conference, there are a lot of younger women in the sex tech space, and that's great to see. And, here are the older women in the background like, ooh. But how do you see sexual empowerment playing a role in women's broader fight for visibility and agency?
I think it's really taking ownership of your own body and your own pleasure, right? There are so many ways in which women have been conditioned to nurture other people, put other people first. It's like you're supporting your spouse growing up, you're supporting your children and you're nurturing them. Sex, it's all the I. It's the one time you are encouraged to be hedonistic and making it all about yourself. And when you really connect to yourself and put yourself first, you're unstoppable and it starts to permeate in every direction.
I love that. I love looking at it like a power move, I mean, for lack of your much better words. But, and, you mentioned this before, but to do that, what about when women are in that survival mode of nurturing, having young kids, having older kids, taking care of their parents? It is a lot of that nurturing role falls to us as women. I hate to be so, divisive and say, oh, it doesn't fall to men, but it just traditionally seems to fall to women. And that's kind of what we've been conditioned here in the US or the world. Do you have more tips and strategies for people to pull out of that survival mode? I know you said before, like, close your eyes, like, be present. Are there any smaller takeaways that people can utilize?
Um, I feel like the biggest tip that I could give somebody who is striving to have a better sex life is to write out what is it that you would want the other person to do for you, and then see if you can borrow each of those skills and just initiate it for yourself. I'm not sure. Let me try that again.
Thank you. Sorry. I was like, can you say it again? Thank you.
So, you know, so the tip that I want to tell people, if the question is, what do I need to do to get more in touch with my own sexuality and really lean into myself? I think it can be very challenging to start with a focus on yourself. And I would have a much easier time saying, well, I wish my husband would have lovely conversations with me. I wish my husband would clean the house so that I have the time. I wish I wish this guy would start a conversation with me. I wish, my girlfriend would get me to go to the gym more often, or, whatever it is. And write out for yourself, what is it in your fantasy world of what a good sex life might look like and what is everybody doing to make it happen. And then every day, make yourself do one of those behaviors that you were envisioning somebody else doing. So it's sort of like it's becoming highly disciplined.
Okay.
And being proactive in doing something yourself.
Okay. So
I don't know if that makes any sense.
Like if you're saying what I really want is my husband to walk down the street with me and hold my hand. So then what you do is you initiate that. Is that
correct? Like then I ask him to go on a walk. I go out of my way to take his hand. I become the proactive leader in this with the idea that whatever I initiate, if someone's invested in getting to know me, they're likely going to mirror back whatever I'm doing. Not right away, but they're going to do it over time because they're going to know like, oh, this feels good. Right? It's like, it's repetition. It's just practice. It's like if I am always cleaning the house and then for a couple of days it's dirty and I stop doing it, the other person's going to get a little uncomfortable and they're going to just start picking it up.
Right, that just happened. Yes. But also, when you know what, when you say it like this and you're like, you have to make it a practice, I feel like that's something we don't really talk about. Like people just assume you should be going and having great sex. But when you use the running analogy too, like people have great runs, but they don't necessarily start off that way. It takes practice and it takes, conditioning and listening to your body, knowing your body, taking care of your injuries, like whatever it is, icing, yeah.
It doesn't just magically happen. Just like if I want to be having this highly connected spiritual sex where it's just lovely and like the stars align, I need to schedule it in my book. I'm not going to tell my partner that I've scheduled it, but I'm going to schedule it maybe 3 times a week and for maybe a half an hour. And then I'm going to like make myself incredibly available. And I'm going to try to maybe take their hand. I'm going to engage them in a conversation. Now, they might not even come home. So maybe that half an hour didn't do anything. Maybe we ended up having this deep conversation. Maybe they asked me to like work with them on filling out the tax form, but I've given them a half an hour of undivided attention so that they're going to have the experience that I matter. And
because it's not an afterthought.
You're a priority.
Yes.
And when you feel like you're a priority, you feel someone's attention on you, you feel them reaching out to you, you feel that energy. And when you feel that energy, you're much more likely to relax into it or want to match them or run with it. But if you tell them, hey, we're going to have sex at 7 p.m. on Wednesday night, no, that's
sorry. I'm so sorry. Did you ever used to watch that show this is so long ago. I actually can't believe I'm thinking about it. Dharma and Greg. Remember that show, Dharma and Greg? Did you ever see, so if anybody ever saw it, it's like a very, sort of uptight caricature of a guy married to this very, hippie-esque, like lovely, free-spirited woman. And they are married and it's, an against all odds kind of marriage, but they're very happy and they have great sex. But she finds out that he's actually been planning the sex every week because he so wants her to be happy. And he has like 3 different rotations, like pirate night, like whatever it is. What I feel like one really was pirate, but maybe it's like bath night, whatever the theme is, he circulates them. And she thinks they're having just like this great impromptu sex life, but he's really very organized and methodical. And, he doesn't tell her this, but he's made that effort.
Yes. 100%. Yeah. I mean, you named it. It's like maybe I've had a glass of water with a lot of ice cubes that I just happen to have by my bedstand so that I have ice that I can play with that night. Or maybe I've got like this hot tea. So now I've got warm water to play with. It didn't accidentally happen to be there.
Okay. So now you've got, these are plans, people, that your drinks can be used for other purposes. So Plan at your will. Let me ask you another question. So obviously, because, we're talking about this as like even the broader scape. So, do you ever, I'm sure you do hear one of your things that you said, that is not really true is women don't have a sex drive, but do you ever hear like the flip side? Like you see some very miserable person and you're like, they need to go have sex. Like somebody needs to go have sex and just release and feel good and be happy. There's all kinds of pop culture references to this, like somebody skipping around the next day and everybody's like, we know what happened. Like it's very obvious, but it just goes to show that good sex, in the most simplest terms, good sex can make for a better world.
Yeah, you're happy. It just, I mean, I put it in the same way, like a really good run, it's endorphins.
So, what would it look like if we treated women's sexual fulfillment as a core health issue instead of just like a private concern?
Yeah, the world would be a better place. And let me tell you, I think most men who are actually married to the woman are going to be way happier about it. And women are going to be way happier about it. We just have to make sure that you're not feeling pressure, right? Because there is a funny line where it's like, if it becomes too much of a concern and you're like, why are you not having good sex? And why are you not engaged in your body? It's like, can shift to one more task and you can just overload somebody. So I'd love to see it be very driven internally as to how do I get the most out of my life? How do I want to express myself? What's going to make me feel good, as opposed to other people saying, this is what you need to be doing.
Well, and that's interesting too, because, that's another thing about having it. People, I know women who are like, I have to do X, Y, Z, have sex, get the groceries, blah, 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 blah. It's an obligation. And so in some ways, yes, it's a priority, right? You're making someone a priority by saying, I'm going to do this, but you're not prioritizing yourself and you're not prioritizing the experience. You're just prioritizing the task. The task. You're prioritizing the act as a task.
And you also have to figure out where that masturbation should fit in. Like, where do I have time for myself? Where do I get to, am I taking a shower and am I touching myself? Is it when I'm putting myself to sleep? Am I touching myself? Like, touch is a critical part of life. And, what form do you want to make it happen?
I don't even have words because I just went into different directions. I was about to say, what about women who are not comfortable with that? And then I also was thinking about when you said touch, like they even, didn't they do an experiment? I mean, what kind of experiment is this? A billion years ago, hopefully before we had ethical standards in place, where they didn't hug or touch these babies. Like they fed them and they were fed and they were changed, but they were not hugged and coddled and cuddled and all of this stuff. And those babies did not thrive. So yes, touch is for people who are like, this is not really that important to me. This isn't an important aspect of my life. Like it will potentially prevent you from thriving and living your best life. But then I'm just answering my own question, but let's shift back to, what about women who are uncomfortable with that? Uncomfortable with that kind of, I just keep thinking of like when I was a kid and just like the taboo conversations about sex and even periods, when I was a kid, it was so much different than it is now. And I'm sure that when my mom was a kid, it was different then. So we've got, multitudes and generations of women alive at the same time. And it's different for all of them. I would like to think that the younger generation is a little bit more in tune with themselves. I hope that every generation gets more in tune. But what do you say to women who are in relationships or coming to you as part of the package, the girlfriend or the husband, and you say this to them and they're like, well, that's not happening?
So I feel like this is where I have the advantage. If someone's coming to my office, they've identified there's a problem. So
okay.
When there's a problem that they're saying I need to fix, they are open. So from my end, I don't really care if it is your partner that's masturbating you or if it's yourself. Like, I can work with either one because touch is touch, which is right? Which is a very different statement than I'm out and about on the street or hanging out with a friend, and a friend is like, oh, I'm not comfortable masturbating and I'm single and I want to have a good sex life.
Right. They're coming to you and I think it must be interesting from your perspective because a lot of people do a lot of things that their doctors tell them to do. So, if your doctor's like, you need to ice this 6 times a day, that's what you do. If your doctor's like, you need to go home and masturbate, you're going to do it because you're fixing a problem.
Right. And you're not calling it masturbation. Like, I mean, I go out of my way to be like, this is not masturbation. This is to help you figure out how to have an orgasm. This is not masturbation. This is getting to know your body. And as soon as we figure this out, you're not going to continue doing this behavior. This is just a gateway.
Ah, okay. All right. That's got to be a profound use of a statement and a changing of words.
Right. I mean, I put it in the same way as like, I am gay, I'm bisexual, or I am straight, and sometimes I have sex with another woman.
But got it. Both are.
Right? I mean, it's all the same behaviors. It's just a different language set as to how we are packaging what we're actually doing.
Well, and I think, that's pretty much what you've said about the whole thing. It's the intention around it, in terms of saying, set the 30 minutes aside and, be intentional, put it in your planner, maybe, have a glass of wine if that's what your thing is, or just like mentally get yourself in that mode. It's the same thing as like these languages, these behaviors. It's the surrounding bits that all, I guess, make things better.
You just named it. I could not have said it better.
I try.
Can I borrow you?
What?
I borrow you?
Absolutely. Anytime. So let me ask you one last thing. And then if there's anything we didn't talk about and you wanted to pipe in, tell me. But if a listener walks away from this episode remembering one thing, and maybe it's a 60-40 rule, but if it's one thing, what do you hope that it is?
To try one new behavior every week, not more. Because if you do too many things at one time, it's hard to really understand the impact. And you might theoretically run out of ideas. But if you're just trying to shift one thing every week, it's very achievable. And you're going to create the experience for yourself that change is always happening. So you're having a different relationship with your body. And if you're with a partner, they have the experience that you're always growing and being creative. Same reason, like when you go to the gym and you lift weights, you're not doing the identical workout every week. You're always shifting it little by little.
Can you give us an example since it's not the gym?
Yeah, of course. So if it's with myself, maybe one week I'm going to masturbate using in the bathtub, and I'm going to use the water faucet, the water coming down to go over my clitoris and to just experience those feelings. And I'm going to use heat. Maybe the following week, I'm going to focus on cold water. Maybe the following week, I'm going to use a washcloth as I'm touching myself. The following week, I'm going to use just my hand and soap. They're very distinct sensations that are going to allow me time to explore and get to know myself. If I'm with a partner, maybe one week I'm going to always be one step behind them, and I'm only going to follow their lead. Maybe the following week, I'm going to try to initiate, and I'm going to put myself on cue. Like every 5 minutes, I'm going to try something different, no matter how much I like the activity. Or maybe the next week, I'm going to try to push myself to use language, and I'm going to try to do sexy talk. The following week, I might try to do some dirty talk. The following week, I might try to do more like games or activities in the bedroom. But it's just, I'm going to take one thing and I'm going to just shift it up. So my partner feels like it's a new experience, or I feel like it's a new experience, because it really is a new experience.
Alex, that alone was a wealth of information. And as somebody who is not a sex therapist and is not always having these conversations, I'm not sure if you can see my eyes bugging out of my head, but I'm so grateful that you are willing to share this information and that you do this and you were willing to come on here and share it. I'm going to sneeze. But I think so many listeners are going to have a lot of good responses to this and really get a lot from it. And we talked before about possibly doing another kind of session where it's like another kind of interview where it's a Q&A. So we'll have to see how people feel about that, because I feel like you could be on the phone for 10 hours. People would ask you so many questions, and it would be really fun though to hear, because you are such a great advocate for good sex, and you are so well spoken, and you're so very matter of fact about things that make other people blush. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. But you've been a pleasure. And the piece that I really want to hammer home to everybody is everybody has a gift to give when it comes to talking about sex. Like, there's no such thing as being an expert, right? We've all had our own experiences of sexuality, and we can teach each other. It's not a secret. It's supposed to be a dialogue.
That is awesome. Thank you so, so much. I am going to let you go now, because otherwise I will go many more questions. But Alex, thank you so much for being here.
It's been an honor, and I look forward to talking to you later.
A huge thank you to Alex Robboy for taking us somewhere we don't often go, to a real conversation about sex, intimacy, and what it means to actually feel connected. My next guest is Gifty Enright, international speaker and author, and we're talking about balance, burnout, and the myth that women can have it all without losing their minds in the process. In the meantime, make sure you're subscribed to Roar wherever you listen so you don't miss a thing. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next week.